I went to medical school in Russia in 2011, and currently I'm a doctor working in the UK as a GP registrar. Today, I want to talk about that journey. How did I end up here? What were my struggles? And what do I see for myself in the future? If you're a medical student, an IMG, whether you're studying in Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, China, we all come under the same bracket. I think this story would both inspire you and reassure you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. This video is going to be slightly long, so I would suggest make yourself a cup of tea and sit down so that I can take you through this journey. Phase 1. Before going to Russia. This story starts after I had completed my high school. I was essentially a very good student. I had studied extremely hard and got 2 A's and a B, which was really good scores to get into medical school. All my friends were applying to either Australia, USA, or UK. Being the 17-year-old guy, I wanted to follow the same path, but there was a problem. The naive me did not know the amount of money that it actually cost to study in those countries. On average at that time, it was costing around 45 to 50,000 a semester. I understood that this was not something that I wanted to burden my parents with, and I had to find an alternative solution. I went through looking at different brochures. I found China, Ukraine, and finally I came down to Russia. This was a place that technically intrigued me in the first place, but also I did not know anybody who studied medicine in Russia. Do people go to Russia to study medicine? And what is the outcome? Do they become good doctors? Are they able to practice in UK, US, Canada? I had none of those things. So I went and looked at the brochure, met the agent, and he told me that, the education was good. But one thing that really stood out was how extremely affordable education in Russia was. I remember at the time, my medical school fee was $3,500 a year. In comparison to UK at that time for international was 45,000 a semester. So practically my 6 years of university fees would cost less than a semester in one of these countries. Hostel fees was also affordable. It was around $1,000 a year. With all of this going on, the first thing that went into my mind was, what is the catch? Because the thing as human beings we do is, we equate something being extremely affordable or cheap to it being of bad quality. And I had the same issues. The biggest worry was that, am I going to the right medical school? Is this a scam? Do people in Russia end up becoming good doctors? Why is the fees so cheap for a medical course? These were the things in my mind. At the time, YouTube and internet wasn't very good, so I remember the agent giving me some CDs where they had promoted the universities, they showed beautiful buildings. I was like, you know what, maybe this is what God has destined for me. I said, Bismillah, let's move on. So this is how I ended up choosing Russia. One thing that I made sure, and I would suggest anybody who's going to an international medical university, is to check that these universities are recognized by the WDOMS website. What that means is, if you're going to this university and if it's recognized by those and it's in that list, that means that those universities are recognized by the big countries, USA, UK, Australia, Canada. So in the future, if you're planning to work there, these universities are recognized and the degrees are recognized. So you can work in those countries in the future. I had checked that and I knew that was clear. I packed my bags and now I had moved to Russia. Phase 2. Moving to Russia. It was a culture shock. While I came to Russia, I had some struggles. Obviously with the languages and culture was one of them. Making friends was a different thing because obviously people didn't speak English in the part of Russia that I was in. But with all of that being said, there was this one lingering fear that I had. I remembered briefly that there was this weird rumor going around between the first years, second years, that the education in Russia is not good, that the education was subpar. The doctors who used to graduate from those universities never ended up becoming doctors in their home countries. They were never able to complete their country exams and then register as a doctor. For India, this might be NEET. For Sri Lanka, this might be the Act 16. So all of that got me worried. I started thinking, where did I come? Did I come into a wrong place? Did I make the biggest mistake of my life? And the worst part was, at that time, YouTube and internet wasn't that great. And I don't think even still, loads of people who finished their journey from Russia speak about their success. So we did not hear about the success story. I did not hear a doctor who finished before me is now working as a consultant in a different country. I did not hear the success story of a doctor who's completed and is now running his own clinic, doing very well for himself. I did not hear any of that. So that instilled a lot of fear and doubt inside me. I remember messaging one of my friends in the UK and asking him, what kind of books do you use? What kind of lectures do you have? What's the study timetable there? Kind of trying to replicate what they would do in the UK over here, which is impossible. Long story short, the guy I messaged dropped out of medicine, so maybe I was not even asking the right person. It's weird how life works in mysterious ways. I knew that the university was recognized. I'm gonna just make my own journey. Maybe there might not be people that I can follow. I can make a journey that people can follow. The next few years in Russia were amazing. I enjoyed a lot. I learned the language. I learned a lot about the culture, met different people, ate lots of different food, made amazing, great friends, and had amazing memories. Now I'm in my 6th year and I'm about to graduate. All those fears that I had in my first year now about, am I going to make it? Am I going to finish? Am I going to become a doctor? Were back. Because I had finished medical school, but I was not registered anywhere. My goal was to work in the UK. But for me to get there, I had to first come to Sri Lanka, serve my country for a year or two, and then move there. I remember the day that I graduated, everybody was celebrating, throwing their hats. Something inside me did not accept that. I was like, this celebration is not done. I can't celebrate right now. This is just the beginning. Now we move to the next phase, and the hardest phase of my entire life since school. Sri Lanka. But before I talk about what happened in Sri Lanka, a quick message. If you've been watching this video so far, and if you're enjoying it, please click the like button. Also, if you're a medical student studying abroad, comment and let me know where you're studying and how did this video make you feel. Did it scare you? Did it motivate you? Or did it give you some hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel? And while you're at it, click the subscribe button so you can be updated with the new videos that I come up. Now we're back in Sri Lanka. I am a 27-year-old grown man back living with my parents, and now I have to do these massive exams. I'm not going to go into the detail of the exams that in Sri Lanka because I've made a full different video about it. I'm going to put the link somewhere over here so you can check it out. But now that I had come back to Sri Lanka, I had two main goals. One, I had to finish the local examinations and start internship in Sri Lanka, because having the internship will allow me to get into GMC registration, a full GMC registration. And while I'm doing that, I also have to clear my PLAB 1 and 2. So essentially, not just one medical exam, but two. God, I thought medical school was the tough part. For me, now the journey was beginning. By the time I was back in Sri Lanka, I was really missing the independent lifestyle that I was living. And my goal was to go back to another country where I can continue to grow as a person. And UK was my goal. Essentially, I wanted to speed up the process. Little do I know that it was going to take time. Sri Lankan exam, the ERPM exam, is one of the most toughest exam that I've ever done, and I probably will ever do in my life. And loads of people that I've met need at least 2 to 3 attempts to clear these exams. And that meant waiting 2 to 3 years to actually register as a doctor. You can tell that I was extremely stressed out and so much doubt in myself. At that time, I was thinking, am I ever going to make it? Is this where this ends? Am I going to be one of those doctors who finished in Russia and people will say, oh, I told you, you studied in Russia, so obviously you're not going to be able to do this. So it was a very tough time for myself. All I could do was just believe in myself and hit the books, because that's all I knew. I had to complete this. I had to become a doctor registered, because I was just a doctor on paper and that meant nothing. I remember studying long nights, long days, 12 hours a day for the next year and smashed the Sri Lankan exams and passed it within one attempt. Not just that, I also finished the PLAB 1. In the meantime, I also went to UK, finished my PLAB 2 and did that. I did that all within 2 years, which now that I think about it was absolutely insane. Everything was done. Now I had to complete my internship. I had to go through this journey of completing a year internship in Sri Lanka, which was a good internship, which will give me the foundations of being a doctor. For this, I had to go to a village in Sri Lanka, 7 hours away from Colombo, which is something that I've never experienced before. I had to live over there for an entire year and serving that community, which I'm proud of at the moment, but it was extremely hard. I've always been a city boy, and going down to a village in Sri Lanka was extremely hard for me to adapt. Work was so difficult. Internship in Sri Lanka it's even said that it's a 24/7 job. You don't even get leaves. You only get leaves if your consultant is has some mercy on you. Now that I think about it, that's just slavery. I finished my internship, and by the time I had done, I was so happy because that was one major tick box done. I had taken all the documents from my internship and had applied for full registration for GMC. So it was a bit of a tough time, but thank God it took me a month or two. I gave them all the documents they needed, and finally I got the message saying, you have been qualified as a fully GMC registered doctor. I remember one of my happiest days of my life, and that day was when I actually celebrated. That was the day I felt that yes, I have achieved it. I remember now was the time to start applying for jobs. I think it was COVID 2020, 2021. COVID was ending and I started applying for jobs. Even at that time, getting your first job and getting your feet into the UK was extremely difficult. I applied for around 150 jobs. One of them, I got selected for interview, and I prepared for the interview to the best of my ability, smashed it, and I landed that job, and that was what allowed me to get my first feet into the UK. Finally, things were happening, and that's when I put that video, finally it's happening, UK time. I had finally managed to crack and prove to myself that studying in Russia does not mean you're not going to be eligible to work in this country. I had done everything in my power. I had studied extremely hard, I had taken the right step, and I had moved to the UK. One main reason that I actually moved to the UK, and I think that's one thing most of the people would agree with me, is that I wanted to position myself in a place where I would be paid decently. Most of our countries, Sri Lanka, India, as doctors, we don't get paid enough. I remember at that time during my internship, I was getting paid 50,000 rupees, which is $300 a month for internship, working 24/7. Once I finished my internship, I got paid around, is at the time, which was around $700, which wasn't a bad amount of salary for that country. But for me, I wanted more. I still want more from life. For me, I was like, what's the easiest and the best way for me to position myself in a place where I can get paid for my value so that I can get the income that I want and be in a position in life where I want to be. Basically, I wanted some level of financial freedom. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to have a nice car. I had studied extremely hard for all of that. Yes, medicine is not just about money. I feel that if you're somewhat financially stable as a doctor, you'll still be a good doctor because you're sane, you're happy, and that really puts you in a better position. Moving to the UK had its own struggles. I came here with 2,000 or 3,000 pounds in my pocket. I had saved that money extremely hard by working long hours in Sri Lanka. I know it wasn't enough. That's probably a month salary over here. And I started my journey slowly over here. I had a friend who helped me set up. I slowly bought a car, rented a house, and all the struggles that comes with moving to a new country was there, obviously. I started my work in Kings in colorectal, had an amazing consultant who, while he had his own issues, but he was really nice to me. I think he really liked me as a person because obviously like I'm hardworking and I'm genuine as a person. So he really liked that part about me. In fact, he wanted me to become a surgeon. And I remember at one point telling him like, do you want me to live your life? I don't think I can come late at night, disturb my sleep to come and operate. It's just not in me. So I thought GP was the best place for me to go because I thought that you're a full doctor and GP allows you not just to work as a doctor, but you also can expand your career into different portfolio careers. And that's something that I'm really looking at it right now. I worked there for 18 months, got all my competency signed and did the MSRA exam, which is an exam to get into GP training. I studied hard. I smashed it out of the court. I got some 512 at that time and I managed to select Birmingham. The day I moved to Birmingham was the day I actually began to take a breather because since I had done medical school, I had just one challenge after the next, back to back, back to back, back to back. And for the first time, I felt like, good, I'm here. I'm in training right now. I've completed all the exam. Now it's just for me to just keep going through this journey. So when you look back, you notice that this didn't happen by default. I didn't come here by mistake. It was strategic. I had challenges. And going forward, while I'm enjoying GP training, it's something that I also want to use to expand my career. I want to get into other fields of medicine. I feel like I'm more than just a clinician. I also want to go into different sectors of medicine. I want to try getting into management, possibly look at health tech and AI, because that is where my creative side shines as well. What I'm trying to say is that I wanted more then, and I still want more now. When I was in medical school, I was searching for a person who spoke about his journey, who spoke about how he went from a starving medical student in Russia to now getting into training and planning his life from there. I didn't have anybody. I really wish I did because those would have made my doubts and fears a lot more clear. I would have had a better path. I would have had some support. And I want to do this with that video. I want to show you that I've done it, and not just me. I've met countless amounts of people who've studied in these countries and they are doing brilliant. Some of them are working as consultants. The only thing is, after they leave, they haven't shared their story. They just go quiet. If you enjoyed this video and if you think that you got some value from it, if you are currently a medical student and if you want to follow along my journey as to what I'm going to do from here onwards, then consider subscribing. And I'd love to hear your comments. Comment and let me know what are your struggles and how can I help you. This is your boy Dr. Zeezy. I'll see you guys in my next video. Take it easy. Peace.